Soldiers in Helmets, titled September 24, 1957, first attempt. White students on
Prior
sidewalk.
arrangements had been made that each of the children would come to Central High School as individuals with their families or whatever, some carpooled. We were to meet at a specific point.
We were escorted to the school by a group of ministers and some other civic leaders.
My mother and I ended up coming later and being separate from the group and being on the opposite side.
Superintendent asked that our parents not accompany us. Somehow he said that their presence would instigate more violence.
Elizabeth
That's why I
Eckford.
showed up alone.
Terrence Roberts.
I can recall leaving home with no fear whatsoever. Had a pencil tucked behind one ear, and I just walked up to Central High.
Adults, teenagers, soldiers.
Into the midst of absolute chaos. I mean, mobs of people yelling and screaming, and I didn't know what to make of it.
No one anticipated, although there had been radio announcements of mobs gathering, sporadic fighting or whatnot, no one anticipated that there would be a mob in front of this school.
We didn't realize what was actually going on in that mob. I could hear the noise, name callers and stuff.
I could hear the group across the street, right there at the mobile station, screaming and hollering and all that sort of thing. I heard it,
Carlotta Walls
but
Lanier.
it didn't dawn on me that it was an unsafe place, because I'm looking at military people.
It didn't even occur to me that they wouldn't protect me. There wasn't even a possibility in my mind.
I saw these young faces. The National Guardsmen weren't much older than we were, and some of them didn't look that determined, as to why they were there.
Reporters, news film camera.
Newspapers and television people were all there trying to get stories and information.
A cadre of reporters and photographers just sort of descended upon me, and they began to pepper me with questions,
It was hot and crowded. We went up to the school and got out of the car. We knew that we couldn't go because of all of the traffic. All the people blocked around.
The next action in vintage film.
We didn't know Elizabeth was at the end of the street and that the mob was following her.
There was nobody, no supporters at least, none of the ministers, none of the people that had helped us provide transportation up to the school. And she was down there facing the mob by herself. None of us knew that.
And I came up behind this group of people on the opposites, just across the street from Central High School, to see Elizabeth Eckford walking across the street with the mob jeering at her. And all of a sudden one of them turned and said, "Now we got us a nigger." And it was at that point that my mother said, "Get to the car. Don't wait for me. Don't stop, Mel. Just go for it."
There was a pack of press in front of me with cameras in my face and people howling directly behind me. I felt like they were right on my heels.
Sitting on a bench.
People who were later identified as education writers. One put a hand on my shoulder comforting me and said, "Don't let them see you cry." I had seen Mr. Bates while I was waiting for the bus to take me away from Central. I remember him walking over to me. I remember showing me that he was armed, and he asked me to go with him. But even though his face was familiar, he was a stranger to me. And so I didn't go with him.
Elizabeth had already arrived, so she was sitting on a bus bench. I couldn't even see her because of the density of the mob. And then one reporter told me that she was over there. So I made my way over to the bench.
Terrence Roberts walked over to me because he had come by himself and asked me would I walk with him. And I didn't want to walk away from there with anybody because I felt like there would be fewer people to see what might happen to me. So the bus in many ways meant safety to me.
A white woman who was from Philadelphia, Miss Collar.
Middle-aged white woman.
Her name was Grace Lodge. She was a member of the NAACP, and it was Mrs. Lodge that walked with Elizabeth that day.
We were told by the commanding officer that they were there to not allow us to go in. One of us asked, "You're not going to let us in? Is that what you're telling us?" And they basically said we were to go back home. That's what we did.
We made 2 or 3 efforts to cross the line, and we were blocked. You begin to figure out this wasn't going to be solved tomorrow morning.
Those people were vicious and violent out there. It was just amazing that not a one of us got hit.
I made my way back through the mob and started walking home, and a white guy ran after me, and I thought, oh boy. So I turned around and assumed a posture of defense or whatever, and he waved that off, saying, no, no, no. He says, I want you to know that I'm a friend. I don't agree with all of this stuff, and not everybody in Little Rock is against you.
We got home that afternoon, and we met at Daisy's house. Elizabeth there, she was in tears.
My mother was on the front porch crying when we pulled up, and she just grabbed me. You know, I couldn't get out of her clutches for maybe 3 or 4 minutes. And that was the first time that I had ever seen my mother cry.
Teenage Jefferson Thomas looks into the camera as the screen fades to black.